right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo, Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz. We are back once again, recapping the action from Raw, SmackDown, and you know what? We're already a week out from King and Queen of the Ring, which is this one snuck up on me, Big D, more so than Backlash.
Well, I'm just happy it's on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Something nice to grill about. It's going to be a daytime show because it's in Saudi, so gonna fire up the grill, enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to it.
You can enjoy yourselves. So it'll be interesting. Definitely snuck up, and it feels like it snuck up on the WWE as well because we've been rushing through all the qualifiers. But we'll get to that in a bit. We'll talk about our predictions for that. But first and foremost, what important things happened on Monday Night Raw this week, Big D?
Absolutely nothing. No, I'm just kidding. So
nothing of consequence. I mean, there were more qualifiers, so
more qualifiers. But actually, notably, we had a great promo from Drew and Damian Priest, kind of going into it. The only reason I bring this up is because this, Drew kind of came in, kind of ran everybody down, talked about CM Punk, talked about Damian Priest being a paper champion, talking about everybody. It was great. It was a great rundown of everybody. Typical Drew heel trolling stuff. But Damian Priest comes out, to kind of respond to him, and they kind of banter back and forth. I'm not really going to get into the details. We got way more to discuss than that. But the reason I bring this up is because I feel that this promo, back and forth, really helped to keep the world title in the main event picture. Because, of course, at the end, Damian Priest tells Drew, once you're medically cleared, you get your, you can have your title shot. Because the only reason you lost was because you kept being distracted and obsessed with CM Punk. Yeah. So once you're ready to go, the shot's yours. Let's do it. And so I think that was a key point because now, of course, not many people saw Damian Priest as a main eventer, and I think that kind of hurt the title a little bit. Not in my eyes, because I've always seen Damian Priest as fully capable of holding this title, but this helped. This really did help. So that was good to see.
It helped. Drew's promo work here was great, like it always is. Mm-hmm. I think working with CM Punk especially has continued to help him develop. So he was really strong here. You could tell Damian Priest wasn't as strong. His promo was good, but he wasn't as strong just when they were contrasting back and forth with each other. Damian was definitely playing more of the face out of this interaction between the two of them.
Which is odd to see.
Again, feels like they're building towards it. It is odd to see. They're building towards it, and they're still continuing that. Carlito trying to weasel his way into Judgment Day. I feel like that's where that's heading. Carlito's going to try and come in and usurp the throne and take over maybe after Rhea gets back, maybe before Rhea gets back. But, yeah, you're right. This has foundationally set things up well for moving forward with the world title.
Yep. So, and then after that, we had a banger of a match here between Io Sky and Shayna Baszler. Both women look strong. I was glad to see it because I feel like for the longest time, Shayna kind of fell into this little vortex of just not being able to, be taken seriously in WWE. And, I mean, she's probably, in the women's locker room, she's one of the few, legit fighters. People forget she was a UFC fighter, and it was good to see. Lots of great spots. I mean, so many, I don't know. I feel this was, I couldn't decide, so there's a three-way tie in my book for match of the night. So, but this was one of them. Definitely, I was just like, wow, it was great. Baszler just held her own in the ring, looked strong against Io. Even the commentators did some callbacks to Stardom, where Io Sky used to, wrestle, which was cool to hear, because those phrases were banned by Vince back in the day, and I like seeing the reality of it, of like, hey, these people obviously have wrestled elsewhere, like, let's shed some light. And I hope that helps people to discover other wrestling promotions that exist out there, like the GCWs, the Stardoms, all that good stuff. Like, I want to see that, because it's so nice to see it. So I really enjoyed this match. I have no complaints. Io Sky took the victory because of course we knew she would. I just was wondering if it was just going to be like a job match, or if, but I'm very glad. I'm so glad that Shayna was able to put up a good fight.
Yeah, it was a really good match, really good back and forth. They both looked really strong. I enjoyed this one as well. This one kind of was my match of the night. I will say there was a lot of strong matches. There were. Not so much, but there were a lot of strong matches on Raw. But yeah, Io Sky, somewhat predictably, Io Sky wins and she advanced because you can kind of see, I didn't have a lot of really any surprises in the qualifier matches this week. Again, it's kind of as planned, it sounds like.
Yeah, I agree. Everything we kind of according to what we expected. So, speaking of what we expected, we had Gunther and Kofi in the King of the Ring qualifier match. A nice little surprise that we didn't expect was Lillian Garcia to come out and kind of give give Samantha Irvin her flowers, and Samantha Irvin give her flowers and ask her to do one more time just to, announce it. And she did. She did Kofi, which was cool.
Yeah.
Wonder why she didn't do Gunther. That would have been cool to see too. But yeah, she did. It was cool to hear her voice again. Cool to see her again, and it was a good moment. It was a really good moment. And the match wasn't anything crazy. Not a whole lot. But Gunther just doing Gunther things and hitting, what was it? He ended it with a power bomb and then flipped him right into the Boston Crab, which I guess is now what he's going to as his finisher, which is very fitting, right? Because the Boston Crab is such like a classic submission hold. Like they've been doing that since wrestling began, right? And I think that's one of the most classic moves you can do. And the fact that he's owning that and he's hitting it and winning matches with it is fitting for him, being the ring general and whatnot. I've said it and I'll say it again and I'll say it again later. He's my pick right now to go win the King of the Ring. He does pick up the victory here to move on. And credit to Kofi. Kofi came out guns blazing, like he just went at him before the bell rang because he knew he was kind of in a little over his head, and made for a good spot in the beginning, but at the end of the day, Gunther takes the win.
Yeah, and this one, like I said, I pretty much expected it. A couple of things that I'll throw out here. The first thing is, Gunther was getting his knee injured or knee attacked, so he was kind of favoring the knee throughout this. This is a theme I'm seeing in the quarterfinal matches because we had Gunther
knee injuries.
His knee's hurt. Bianca Belair, the knee hurts. Randy Orton, the knee. I was like, can we fake some other injury? Like it happened 3 times this week. Do something else. Yeah,
shoulder, a finger,
tie the wrist, something. But it was all knee injuries. I'm like, this felt a little copy paste when you saw it too much happening on the 2 shows. Good match, what I expected. I had originally said that my expectation was Gunther was going to win the King of the Ring. My opinion on that has changed after watching this week. So we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk more about that. I'm curious.
You'll talk more about that later. But once I saw things unfold, I was like, wait a second. I feel like I know where this is going. So there's going to be a trip to Crazy Town later. But moving on.
I agree. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious. Now you got me curious. I'm trying to think here. I'm looking down at notes.
I'll tell you. I was working out at the gym this morning, and it came to me in a vision, and I was like, "That would be ridiculous." But
we'll
the more I tell you, it starts to make sense.
We'll see. After that, we had, of course, I think backstage before this, we've seen Chad Gable running down his stablemates and talking them down and then assigning them matches, like if they're doing him a favor. But weirdly enough, instead of putting his big guys with the big guys, he's just rotated it around. So we ended up getting Akira Tozawa versus Big Bronson Reed, and then we ended up getting Otis against Sami Zayn. Don't know what he was thinking there. Bronson Reed squashed Tozawa. It was not even like blinking you miss it. This was not, Of course, Chad Gable was at ringside trying to coach, being a terrible coach. Nothing really to bark about here. It was just, run of the mill squash match for Bronson, just building him up for the triple threat at King and Queen of the Ring. So nothing crazy. I don't know if you had anything on that.
Nope. It is what it is.
Yeah, this good old squash match. After that, we had Ira Valkyria and Zoe Stark. Ira takes the win. Nothing really crazy there. It was an okay match.
Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler both out. I was like, okay, the tag team both got eliminated on the same night.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, guess what? You're back to tag team.
All right.
But
back to tag team action. Tear up the tag team division. So and this was as expected.
Yeah. Yeah, she's Lyra Valkyria. Oh my God. I can't talk this morning. But she picked up the victory. Good for her. Again, kind of expected, especially as much as they're putting on her in the main event picture with Becky Lynch, siding with Becky Lynch and whatnot. You kind of saw that coming. But yeah, I mean, good for her. It was a good move. It was an okay match. Nothing to, brag home about. It was, it was a decent match. After that, Sami Zayn against Otis, which was interesting. And I'll say it's interesting because Otis pretty much dominated most of the match. I think Sammy's only offensive maneuver was the haluva kick to win. I think that I want to say that was his only offensive maneuver. And what ended up beating Otis wasn't Sami Zayn. It was Chad Gable's terrible coaching and yelling and telling him not to do the worm, and which he did anyway, but still second guessed himself and ate a haluva kick for his efforts. But what was more interesting was at the end, Chad Gable comes in to just kind of like tear into Otis, but it kind of like, I don't know, it kind of looked like after, I think it was Chad Gable slapped him, and Otis looked like he was actually going to hit him back. And the crowd was going bananas because they wanted to see it happen. Again, they didn't give it to us there, which they shouldn't have, because that's going to disrupt the storyline right now. Yeah. Let Chad Gable lose. Well, we'll talk about that later, but let that story play out first. Let it close out, and then open up Otis versus Chad, because it's going to be like a long building since their beginning when he took over helping him out and whatever. It's going to be interesting to see, and I think Otis is going to get his revenge soon. They teased it, and the crowd was loving it. I think that was kind of Triple H's way of making sure that they were on the right path with this, and I think they are. So hopefully that's what they do.
Yeah, I think it'll happen very soon. We can talk about that later. But I think it'll happen very, very soon. But they've laid all the foundation for Otis is going to rise up and betray Chad Gable, obviously. But we'll talk about that later in the predictions.
So speaking of, I wasn't a fan of this one. We had Becky Lynch versus Dakota Kai, which normally I'm like, all right, cool, let's watch it. But it ends in a no contest, which I'm never a fan of. Never a fan of. But yeah, so Becky got the disarmer, but then Damage Control came in and interrupted, and then it ended in no contest. Lara Valkyrie came out and hit, to do her thing. Liv Morgan came out, did a hit and run on Becky, and then took off. Not a fan of these hit and run things that Liv Morgan is doing. I feel it makes her look like less of a competitor against the champ. Yeah. I'm not a fan. I mean, I get it. They're trying to do like heel tactics, and I know that back in the day that would work with certain people, but I don't feel it works with Liv, only because, like we said before, and we've said time again, she hasn't really beaten many like formidable people to like be able to do stuff like that and be like, oh, you're not worthy of my time. I think she still has some build up to do. Do I think she's capable of holding the title? She has before, obviously. But I still feel she is capable of being a champion and holding that title. I say she should have gotten it since the Battle Royal, and I'll stand on that forever. But, I'm not a fan of how they're portraying her now as kind of like the fleeing heel. Definitely not a fan of that. I don't know if it's because they don't trust her ability on the mic to, actually do promos, but all these hit and runs that she's been doing, or all these like bait and switches that she's been doing with Becky Lynch to get under her skin. I get it. You want to do mind games, but it should be done in a different light, I feel. But that's just
I think I think we said it before. I was like, I understand why they put the belt on Becky at the Battle Royale, but if you're just gonna turn around and put her in a title match against Becky Lynch immediately afterwards, just give her the title at that point.
Exactly.
Like I do. It doesn't make sense to drag this out.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're going to actually do. At this point, they've made her the bridesmaid instead of the bride so many times.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't have her lose against Becky Lynch. Like
I mean,
at that point, you're always losing. You can't have her lose it. But I worry that they will. I also don't like the way that they're handling this either, because it does make her look a little weak. It's kind of the Kurt Angle type of heel where he was a little bumbling, and it's never a good look, and that wasn't supposed to be her character. She is supposed to be kind of dangerous and psychotic and doing the revenge tour thing. So this does feel like it's a bit of a departure, and I'm not wild about it, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious to see what the long-term end game is here, because that's just, I don't know. And then, speaking of more BS, we had the Fatal 4-Way to determine number one contenders, which I was excited to watch. It was Judgment Day versus New Catch Republic, AOP and the Creed Brothers. Of course, Carlito comes out to distract, takes out, Pete Dunne right before he's about to destroy McDonough. He hits the, the backstabber,
the
And
backstabber
again,
on the announce table. So I got to
yeah,
pause here. I feel like Carlito, you hurt yourself more than you did
yeah,
to
oh my
beat
God,
Gunn.
yeah,
You
yeah,
drop and hit the backstabber on the table. You're taking all the back bump on the table. That doesn't
yeah,
feel like a very effective maneuver to use at that point. But I'm like,
yeah.
whatever. I know it's his thing.
I agree. I mean, I get it, but yeah, and then the crowd reaction was legit. They were like, "Holy
Yeah.
crap!" Right? But it was, and again, it's Carlito. He's good. He's trying to earn his way into the Judgment Day and whatnot. So that was a a nice little touch there. But again, not a fan of shenanigans, especially with something like that. You had four decent teams that could have done some work. I think it was
Yeah.
JD McDonough and Finn Balor. Balor was able to, of course, capitalize, hit the coup de grace, and win the match. But I will note, New Catch Republic still looking strong. You had
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Bate hit that airplane on, I forgot which AOP member it was, but either way,
I
the
think it
dude's
was
like twice his
Razor.
size.
It was
Yeah, I think
great.
it was Razor.
Yeah, it was Razor, and I was like, oh, and he got spinning so fast. Also, it wasn't like, oh, he was barely going. He got a
No,
lot of
he
moments.
was, yeah,
It looked really, really good, and he spun it.
yeah.
And he managed to get him lifted and dropped it down. I was like, man, that's super impressive.
It really is.
I hate saying Razor's the smaller one. Like,
Yeah, Razor's, but still, he's still big. What is he? He's still like
they're
6
both
something.
gigantic.
Yeah.
It's like he's the little one out of the two, but it was super, super impressive. That
It really
was spot
was.
of the night for me. It was very cool.
Yeah, I agree. And this was one of the matches that I really enjoyed watching. It was such a good match up until the shenanigans. There was a lot of back and
Yeah.
forths, and it was just each team was doing their thing, and I feel like AOP was finally kind of getting that that platform that they were on in NXT when they had their tag team championship run, and I think it would have been nice to just let it unfold naturally, but of course they're trying to run two stories at the same time here and letting Carlito, have the opportunity. Interesting that that they paired Finn Balor with JD McDonough. Little known fact, Finn Balor trained JD McDonough personally, so it's kind of like his protege. I think before when he was in NXT UK, I think he used to be called. Oh man, I think it was like Devitt or something Devitt, which was a callback to Finn Balor's Prince Devitt gimmick back in Japan. So, yeah, it was cool. Again,
Gotcha.
it was interesting, but yeah, I enjoyed the match. It was still a good match. I don't think the finish took away from the match, but it was just I
No,
would have liked to
still
see it
good.
just. Yeah, it was a great match, but I enjoyed it.
Well, anything with AOP with the Creed brothers, who are great, and talk about a team
Oh,
that's
yeah.
had all of its momentum squashed.
Yeah.
The Creed brothers and New Catch Republic. It's just a shame that the iteration of Finn Balor and JD McDonough, who we haven't really seen together as a tag team for the Judgment
No.
Day. Obviously, the champs was Damian Priest and Finn Balor. So it kind of felt like, really, they're the ones that won. Obviously, this is for the continuation of the Carlito storyline. But
It is.
you got to give some love to New Catch Republic at some
Yeah.
point. Like, stop having them go out there and put on great matches and then not get rewarded with the title opportunity or a title run. So at some point, we
Yeah.
got to see it. And I'm starting to feel the same way about the Creed brothers as well.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully soon they'll get a chance once this story gets played out, but we'll see. And then for the main event of the night, we had Jey Uso and Ilya Dragunov in the King of the Ring tournament quarterfinal. This is probably the only one I personally wasn't sure on, just because I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, my gut told me Jay should move on to continue his story, but I kind of wanted Ilya to win, just because it would have been nice to see him and Gunther face off again. It was, it would be amazing to see. But I guess we're going to have to wait for that, because Jey Uso did pick up the victory on this one. And it was a hell of a match. This was the other one I hesitated in it being match of the night. I kind of, wasn't sure between this one and the first match that we had with Shayna Baszler and Io Sky. So this was a great match. There was a lot of back and forth on this one. A lot of, Ilya Dragunov just bombarding Jay with like vicious hits. Like his move set is so brutal. He just, he keeps going, and it's just, they're so aggressive and so, like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very direct hits, right? And very like, just very, very, very hard. And I love it. So it was great. Jey Uso kept fighting over. I think he took an H bomb, and he still couldn't get the win. But Jey Uso was able to hit the spear, and then the Uso splash to win, and then he stood tall. Gunther came out. They kind of squared off inside, and that was that.
Yeah, this is probably the one that I agree was most. It was most. The outcome was in doubt at some point, where you're thinking, it could go either way, depending on where they want to go with the story. And yeah, I'll call Ilya Dragunov as kind of we'll call it a roughneck style. I think it's very brutal. It has more of a real world MMA type of feel to it at times, which is good. I think that's what he's going for. I think it would have been nice to see him rematch against Gunther in the final. I kind of knew, though, like you see, with the exception of Valkyria, like the NXT folks are all getting bumped early, and that's understandable because they're still coming up, but they want to give some credibility. Yeah. I wonder now, though, does this make him? Imperium's looking for another member. Does this mean that he's going to align with Imperium and take Vince's spot at some point? I don't know. Maybe because he doesn't really have a crew to help him get over the hill with against some of the faces. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But yeah, this one really, really good. And after the outcome, that's kind of what changed my perspective a little bit. But we'll get to that later about what's going to happen.
All right. And after
that, Raw, right?
overall, that was it for Raw. I would say Raw was a solid A. I actually A+. I enjoyed it very much. Great wrestling matches in there. Just to the point, right? Not too many promos, just straight wrestling, and I loved it. So I'm happy with it.
I think it was pretty solid. I'll give it a B+. I'm a strict grader. I'll give it a B. B+ is good for me. But overall, it was solid, which led us to SmackDown. And I'll run through this as briefly as I can. This was a very uneven show for me. So I will start with opening match was my match of the night. I'm just going to throw that out here right now. I thought the opening match was a barn burner. It was Bianca Belair versus Tiffany Stratton, Queen of the Ring quarterfinals. This one was really great. It was very competitive, very back and forth. Tiffany was doing the whole heel thing where she was targeting the knee. So it was, again, the second time we saw in the main event, knee injury. Targeting the knee, Bianca Belair also grabbing her braid and using it against her several times. So she was going full on in with the heel tactics. Lots of near falls throughout. This one ended with Tiffany was going for the prettiest moonsault, and then Bianca ran up behind her and got her in the KOD, which it made perfect sense. Her back is turned, so she grabbed her and pulled her in the KOD. She got the victory. So Bianca Belair advances in the semifinals to face the winner later of Cargill versus Jax. We'll talk about that one. But this one I thought was great. I love this match. And
I agree.
For me, the most entertaining, most competitive, most compelling.
I completely agree. This was also match of the night for me. And I actually went into this thinking Tiffany Stratton was going to win until the whole ordeal with her Instagram story reel post. So I think this was kind of a punishment for her. I think this was a punishment for her. I think she was... So I don't think they intended on Bianca Belair to move up. I think they're going to let I think they're going to let Tiffany Stratton move up. But then the whole real thing happened. And I think this was kind of like, hey, we can't have you win right now because it's going to look bad on us. So that may have hindered her chances for a title. We'll see. I don't know. But I feel that this was...
Might have.
Because I mean, the way they played the match out, it looked like it could have gone either way, which is why I feel this was like a game time decision where they're just like, look, you messed up, we gotta like fix it. So I don't think it would have gone over well if she would have won. But
which would have explained what we saw later a little bit better. But because that felt like, what the heck did you guys not have an idea of how to wrap this one?
Exactly.
So we'll
get to that one. But
I'll get to that.
But again, I agree. This was also this was match of the night for me. It was entertaining. It was fun. I love the heel tactics of using the braid. It was, especially I think there was this point too where she like grabbed the braid to like pull her down and take her knee out, which was kind of like that was actually very creative. So I enjoyed it. It was good. I loved all the heel tactics.
It was really good.
So I liked it.
Yeah. Good stuff. Then a couple of brief things. Logan Paul headed to Nick Aldis's office. He had a brief run-in with LA Knight, potentially teasing a U.S. championship program between the two of them later on. We'll see if that happens. And then we had Paul Heyman briefly ask Solo Sikoa if he had talked to Roman today, and he's like, all the time, wise man, all the time. And then they walked out.
I always talk to him.
I always talk to him every day. And you're like, I know he's not talking to him. But and then they made their way out for Tama Tonga versus LA Knight. And then LA Knight ended up having a pretty good backstage promo segment with Carmelo Hayes going back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Those two have great chemistry together.
They really do.
So I would love to see them have a program at some point with him talking about the only initials. They're not going to worry about an RKO. It's going to be HIM. And LA Knight's like, oh, he won the spelling bee. Well, here's the only initials people care about, LA Knight. And you have the crowd doing it. Like, everything about it was great. So really, really good stuff in that promo. And then LA Knight versus Tama Tonga. It was a good match. But then you did have somewhat predictably
shenanigans.
A lot of distractions, shenanigans from the bloodline throughout. Solo kind of gave the final distraction because they didn't really do anything to him. It was just mostly distractions, which set up the win for Tama and his nameless finisher, which I'm going to call it the nameless finisher.
Yeah.
Whenever it happens, it's just like, oh, that could be it. And I was like, okay, so he's doing this.
I think they're just calling it a finisher. Yeah, I think they're just calling it like a reverse STO. I think is what they're calling it. Because they don't know what to call it. I don't think he has a name for it.
I want to say both times it's been like, oh, wow, that could be it. And it was like, he didn't even call what the move was.
Which is a bummer. Yeah. It's like they don't know that's his finisher. Like the first time he did it,
it's like,
they didn't say anything. Yeah.
Yeah, they said nothing. This time it was like, oh, they kind of hinted. And I'm like, okay, clearly that's Tama's finisher, but they have not dubbed it anything yet. And they don't even call it what the move is. So
get on it, creative.
So Tama advances. Creatives had a rough week, but so Tama advances to the final for the SmackDown final. So this is where it'll. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I was fine with the show up until then. I was like, this is good.
Yeah.
This is fine. We'll get into what Tama Tonga means later. Then we got into stupid. So we had the contract signing with Cody, and Logan Paul was next. This whole thing was dumb. I'm just going to come out and say it was dumb. Basically, Logan Paul was like, I had my lawyer drop a different contract. And he made their match at King and Queen of the Ring for the WWE title only because he never really agreed to defend the U.S. Championship, which is what I was worried about because I was like, oh, they kind of left it up in the air. And they left it a little ambiguous. And then he goes, he kept saying this, which kept making me more mad because he goes, I've already got the contract here. It's already been executed. It's done. I'm like, dude, it's not been signed by Cody. Like, it's not an executed contract until everyone signed it. He kept saying, it's executed. It's done. Just sign it. It's already executed. And it's like, no, it's not a legal document until everyone signed it. Plus, WWE isn't even aware of it. Like, that would like be if I got a contract written up and then said, I am going to have a world title shot against Cody Rhodes. It's already executed, man. And then WWE was like, what? It's like, I couldn't do that. So obviously Logan Paul couldn't do that. So that whole thing was obnoxious and dumb. Yeah. Cody, for whatever reason, was like, okay, sure. And then signed the contract. I hated everything about this. And like this, the second time, and a second week in a row, I've hated everything about a segment involving Logan Paul. This didn't help, like, add heat to Logan Paul. It made the writers look lazy because it made it look like last week you announced this, and then you waited a week, and you're like, now let's get out of it. And so you made this the most ridiculous scenario for Logan Paul just saying, I wrote it up and it's already executed, and then Cody was like, sure, and went along with it. Because you haven't done anything to earn my U.S. championship. And Cody was like, sure. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's the line that really like irritated me. Where he's like, "You haven't done anything to earn a shot at my title." And I'm like, "Bro, neither have you."
Yeah, you haven't done anything to earn a title here.
You ain't done
Cody
anything.
Didn't say that. Cody was just like, oh, "Okay." Oh, and this what this also does is this takes any interest and drama out of the main event. Now, Logan Paul's not going to beat Cody. And now he's not going to lose the U.S. Championship. So, like, all the intrigue, anything where you said, "Oh, this is a little bit intriguing. This is a little bit interesting."
It was a little bit.
We
it's
could
gone
have a double
now.
championship.
It's out.
How are you going to get out of it? And I knew they wouldn't do it. So I knew what would happen is they're going to have like a disqualification. Something's going to happen where no title will change hands. But at least it gets you guessing and wondering. Now all that's out the window. So there's no real stakes for this match. Didn't feel like a swerve. It didn't make me hate Logan Paul as much as it made me hate the writers for being lazy. So I'm going to pause there, Big D. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, the line that got me was like, "You didn't earn anything." I'm like, "Bro, neither did you." And it's just, it's annoying because what irritates me about this even more is that they're trying to make the U.S. title mean more than the undisputed title.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't know where the hierarchy stands. You know what I mean? And it's so dumb. Like, it just, you're right. It looks lazy. It's a stupid call. And all the Logan Paul lovers out there, I don't care what you have to say about it. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life.
Just don't do it. Like if you're going to do this, if you're going to say we're going to have him wrestle for WWE title, fine. Like, we don't have anybody.
Then say it. Just be like, hey, you're going to fight for the title. That's it.
You're fighting for the title. But don't do this bait and switch thing and then be like, see, this is good heel work, because it's not good heel work. It's bad writing.
Yeah, it's terrible. And then even having like the lawyer and his little entourage guys there, like with their Prime shirts.
Threatening my client? Well, yeah. And then Nick Aldis is just like, I'm tired of this. This is ridiculous. And he goes, are you threatening my client? And then Nick Aldis is like, and I'm thinking, you didn't threaten him, so it doesn't matter if he said that. I was just saying, I'm not threatening him. I'm taking away his title shot because he's messed with us too much. And I'm within my legal recourse to do that. Like, everything about it felt like a 12-year-old wrote it. It was like, hey, can you write this? Yeah, his lawyer's gonna have an executed contract, and he's gonna be like, are you threatening my client? It's like he watched an episode of Law and Order and was like, oh, that's gold. Hold on. Like, everything about it was just like, ugh.
All that was missing was for him to stand up and yell objection.
Exactly. I object.
Yeah, but see, at this point, you might. Yeah, I mean, at this point, you might as well have just said, you know what, Nick Aldis could have been like, you know what, Logan Paul, you haven't deserved did anything to deserve a title shot either. So if you're not going to put your title up, then it'll be a non-title match, and it'll be a street fight. Yeah. Done. Yeah.
Like, and that I would have even liked better. It's like, just do that. Just do that. But they didn't do that. But so coming off of that.
And that's where it started going downhill.
Yeah. Because then we headed into Nia Jax versus Jade Cargill, which is more stupidity.
Speaking of downhill.
So this match was super short. Early on in the match, you had them already spilled to the outside, and then you have Jade Cargill's daughter, and she's like, fighting in front of Jade Cargill's daughter, like, your mommy's terrible, and she's like, no, mom.
No, like, I will say, hold on, I will say that was good heel work on Nia's part, where she got in the little girl's face and was like, your mom sucks. I'm like, wow.
Sucks. And she's like, no, she doesn't. And I was like, okay, this is a little dramatic here. Sorry. So you have that, and then so they're going back and forth. The referee's looking at both of them, and he's doing the 10 count. Then Nia is throwing furniture everywhere, and then she grabs the steel chair in clear view of the referee. Grabs the steel chair, puts it over her head, swings, hits Jade Cargill with it. Now Jade catches it with her hands, hits her in the face, catches her with her face in her hands, rips it away and hits it back, and then the referee disqualifies Jade Cargill for using a weapon. And this is where I'm like, okay, you guys didn't think this one through at all. You were like, we're not going to have Jade advance to fight Bianca Belair, which is, if the original goal was Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill, that would have made sense. So if they're like, no, it's going to be Bianca. Well, we're not going to have them. They're tag team partners. We're not going to do that. Yeah. How do we get out of here? But we got to make her look strong. We can't make her look weak. Let's have her get disqualified. Let's have it be Nia Jax's fault. It's like, but don't do it that way. Like, at least have the ref's back turned. Like, have something happen where it's in full view of the ref. The ref sees her. What is the ref going to go? Oh, well, she caught the chair, so I guess that's not against the rules. You know,
that's what they're playing it off.
She still hit her with. She still hit her with the chair.
They're playing it off with. I actually had to pull up what they noted for this, and I wrote it down here. It says, where was it? Jax tried to use a steel chair, however, stopped. Cargill, however, stopped Jax in her tracks.
She stopped it with her face.
Taking the steel chair and then using it herself. Unfortunately for Cargill, this was in full view of the referee, who had no choice but to disqualify Cargill.
So was Nia
although
Jax
the image,
full view,
I wish we could show it here. If you look at the image that they have, it like the little snippet, the little preview, the thumbnail, the chair is literally on Cargill's face. And her hands are not even they're not even holding the chair.
They're like on
her hands are like this, open, and the chair's in her face. Like it's
so this is where I'm like, okay, when you see it happen, you're like, and it's not like, oh, the ref didn't see it. It's like, no, the ref totally saw that. He was looking at them counting. So this was so contrived. They were trying to accomplish many things, and like, let's get her out of here and make her look strong. And I was like, wow, this is a huge failure. And then they just had them brawl some more. And at this point, I was like, all the air got let out of the show from me. The Logan Paul segment, and I was like, oh, well, I've been waiting to see Nia Jax versus Jade Cargill. This will be fun. Yeah. And then this was and I'm like, at this point, I was kind of done with SmackDown. So I was just running on fumes afterwards. then you had the after. That's why I felt like I was so upset at this point. I didn't really enjoy DIY versus Legado del Fantasma, which I should have.
Right,
I should
because
have enjoyed it.
yeah,
I was just like, and then and in watching it, so DIY versus Legado del Fantasma felt a little uneven to me too. Because I was like, they're both really good teams, but it felt like maybe the timings were a little off with each other. Maybe they just haven't worked together enough. So there was I was finding myself kind of nitpicking there as well. And then the ending for that one was a little strange because you have Electro Lopez gets you have Santos Escobar gets on the apron and starts distracting. Electro Lopez gets up and knocks Johnny Gargano off the top rope. He was getting up there to do his thing, and she knocks him and he falls and tumbles into the ring. And then immediately, though, even though he just racked himself and got hurt, immediately him and Ciampa hit the meet in the middle on Humberto Carrillo, and then they pin it. And then Santos was like, "What? I can't believe that didn't work. Like, what happened?" I was confused too. I was like, "Wait a second! Like that getting hit below the belt by the ring post and falling into the ring didn't do anything to him. He was fine." And they popped up and hit the meet in the middle and won the match. So I was like that. So I'm going to pause there. What did you think of this?
I mean, so I guess they're trying to do. The distraction finish. They're trying to say that that's when Electro Lopez. They're saying that they got ejected, which they did. They got ejected from ringside.
Yeah.
But I guess in all of the commotion, somehow in between that time, Gargano was like, "Hey, I'm good." Which any man watching this has gotten hit below the belt knows that it takes longer than like 30 seconds to be okay from that.
Oh, and it was like 10 seconds. It happened so fast. When you see it, you're like, oh, you got ejected. Oh, boom, it's over. And I was like I had to rewind to be like, what the heck happened?
I am glad to see DIY move forward because I feel they would be the ones to take the titles off of Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Because to be honest, they haven't been doing anything with those tag titles. They were guests on commentary. They didn't do anything. They didn't add to it. They didn't take away from it. It just, I think they're just there with the titles. And I think Triple H is probably like, all right, y'all can't do anything with these titles. Let's put it. And DIY will be. You'll get such a good pop for DIY to take those tag titles. And I think will.
And they really deserve it. So
they're a great tag team.
I think they should be. And that's why I was trying to figure out. I was like, was this a number one contenders match? Because it wasn't advertised as such. And they're like, oh, they might get a match down the line. It's kind of what they said later. I was like,
no, it wasn't a number one contenders.
I thought okay, because on commentary they kind of teased like, it's possible they might get themselves a shot. And I'm like, what do you mean it's possible? They're watching ringside.
They're the only tag team not really.
They're scouting them out.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I think this will lead to a tag match for a championship, but. If it does, I really hope that DIY does take this because I feel they would be much better champions. Although Grayson Waller, Austin Theory are entertaining, of course, they're entertaining on the mic.
Yeah, of course
they get a lot of heat. They work very well together. I'm not knocking the tag team at all.
Well, and Austin Theory's a great wrestler too.
He is.
As far as in-ring worker, Austin Theory's excellent. So
yeah, I think Austin Theory is one of those guys that you're going to see eventually become world champion. Eventually. In his career, if he sticks it out, just because, of course, he has the look, he has the skills, he has the mic abilities, like he has it. So it'll be good to see him, come up and move up. And I think this is just another tread on his journey. So I think that'll be fine. But
yeah, I would agree. And then that took us to main event time, which was Randy Orton versus Carmelo Hayes. This one was short and sweet, too. I'm starting to think Randy Orton coming back in his contract says, I'm not going to do a match that's longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I noticed
like
every time he's been in one.
15 is the cap.
15 minutes. It's like when this one started, it was 15. I was like, okay. And they still had a commercial break. It was 15 minutes. We had a commercial break. So we missed most of it. And we missed most of when Carmelo Hayes was like.
Took over on offense. That was like the weirdest thing. All of a sudden, Randy's getting beat. We're like,
during the break. Yeah. They're like, during the break, Carmelo did all this cool stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, this must be a very different experience if you're watching it live. You see the back and forth, you're like, oh, this is pretty competitive. If you're watching at home, you saw Randy Orton doing well, come back, hey, I heard during the break Randy Orton started getting beat down, and then Randy Orton kind of picked it back up again. Yeah. So it felt more one-sided than it really was just because of how much you got to see. Somewhat predictably, Orton won. I knew he was gonna
also
advance.
Predictably, what happened in the match to Randy? What body part did he hurt?
Oh, yeah, the knee. The predictable was the knee injury again. So it's the third knee injury where I was like, wow, we're really playing. I thought they all got backstage and said, okay, what injury are you going to fake? Knee? I'm doing the knee. Are you doing the knee? Oh, you're doing the knee too. You're doing the knee? Okay, let me pick the elbow.
Yeah.
We're all doing knees, right? Now, everybody's fine with that. So he did the same thing where he played into the knee injury the whole time. And so I'm wondering how much all these fake knee injuries will play into the semifinals next week. We got a lot of bum knees out there, and they were all for winners because Gunther won, Bianca won, and Randy Orton won. So
all I know is the medical trainers and therapists have a lot of work ahead of them before next week.
They got their work cut out for them. But Orton won, of course, hit the RKO out of nowhere.
That was great.
As usual, which was great. Those always look phenomenal. And then Tama Tonga's music hit, boom, 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 and he comes out just to like set up the "I'll see you next week," and then we cut to black, and that was it. So that was SmackDown. I'm giving it a D because of all the dumb stuff. all the dumb stuff that happened. The first match was great, and it was just it hit downhill. The final match was everything with Randy Orton's great, so nobody hated on me out there. So the main event was good, but we just didn't see much of it, and I was just like not real happy after a great opening match.
I agree, and I was excited for SmackDown when the first match went on because it was such a great match, and I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. Even with the the outside shenanigans as far as her Instagram posts or whatever, like even with that looming, like they didn't really let it phase the match. I think the match went on very well, and it set the tone for a great show, and I was excited for it. And then it was doing well, and then before you know it, Logan Paul happened. And then after Logan Paul happened, Nia Jax happened. And that was just, it was just... And then, honestly, I'm about to take that back. I won't blame Nia Jax for it. I know this is just creative, having to make changes on the fly. And why they made that change, I don't know. But, it is what it is. My prediction was for Jade Cargill to win the Queen of the Ring. And now that's out the window. So that's also probably why I'm salty, so... But I mean,
I thought she was going to win too, and I thought she should have won. And this stunk of we have to make a change really quickly, which is why it felt so disjointed when it happened. And I don't blame them at all for that. I was like, that's a garbage finish, but you guys
they did the best they could.
I know they said, here's what you guys need to do, and they went out there and did it. So, so King and Queen of the Ring. Predictions.
We actually talked about this before we went on. How now these premium live events are shortened, so they're about five matches. Kind of, he's pretty much running them. Triple H is running them just like he did the NXT takeovers. Like 5-6 matches tops. That's it. Run it out. We're done. So
well, and I like that too. I like it shouldn't be a 6-7 hour excursion. It's like
I agree.
It should be short and sweet and to the point.
So first up, I'll start from let's start with the King of the Ring tournament. So this week we're gonna have Jey Uso versus Gunther on Raw and Tama Tonga versus Randy Orton on SmackDown to determine who will be facing each other at the end. So for me, I'm sticking with Gunther. I've always said Gunther. I don't know who he'll face. I'm thinking this may be when we see Randy Orton. I want to see Randy Orton lose to Tama Tonga because of Bloodline shenanigans, because he's been trying to get out the Bloodline, and that's where he goes after King. After that, then he kind of switches gears to that, focuses on that. But something tells me he'll probably win, and we'll have an amazing match between Gunther and Randy Orton, which would be cool to see, and I think that'd be great. The other part of me is saying there's a good chance we might see Jey Uso and Tama Tonga, which would make for more Bloodline story. But I am going to keep true to my stance and go with Gunther to win the King of the Ring.
Yeah, so this is where my predictions changed. I originally had thought Gunther was going to take it. After seeing everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks, now I do feel like it's going to be Jey versus Tama Tonga. And for that reason, for the Bloodline thing. So I think if we see the setup now, obviously Randy Orton's got this knee injury that he's fake nursing. So I think he's going to come into that one hobbled. You're going to see more Bloodline shenanigans, and Tama's going to end up winning. And it's going to be lots of interference. Yeah. Tama's going to advance, and then he's going to be representing. It's like, oh, look, this guy came out of nowhere, and he's already in the King of the Ring finals. For Gunther versus Jey Uso. So technically, Jey beat Gunther in the IC title. He only lost because Jimmy interfered and cost him his championship.
True.
So he's got this. He needs to get this win back. You have Kaiser, who's obviously going to be ringside helping. And then who comes out to help even the score. The long absent Jimmy, who hasn't been back. I think this is where we're going to see him come down, and he's going to even the score against Kaiser. And instead of costing his brother, he's going to help his brother. And then you're going to head into King and Queen of the Ring. You've got the Bloodline in one corner. You've got Jay with Jimmy in the other corner. And then you do really start that Bloodline versus Bloodline with Jimmy there to help back up his brother. And then this starts that story. Like that, when I'm like, and that would be cool. Now, if he doesn't show up on Raw, and I think Jay will still win, and then maybe he just shows up at King of the Ring to help out and to even score against the Bloodline because they already betrayed him. But I feel like that's going to happen, and I feel like if that did happen, I would be totally cool with it. I'm like, that makes sense with what they've been building to the story. I'd like to see them. I'm waiting for them to get Jay and Jimmy back together. So that's where I feel like it's going now.
And I agree. I can see that. I want to say agree, obviously, because I predict otherwise. But I think that I could see that, right? And I said before, I think they're going to go with like a Bloodline Civil War, probably for Survivor Series, because that's where you have two 6-man tags going up against each other. You still have a few other.
Totally fits that.
Yeah, and the crowd was cheering for Roman the whole time on SmackDown, so there's a very good chance that we might see that. We want Roman
chance,
Yeah, but here's the downside to it. I love heel Roman. I can't stand babyface Roman.
As long as he does
I can't stand the puppy dog eyes. Woe is me.
Yeah, don't go that. Hey, we love you, Salt Lake City. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
He's going to come out and say, Salt Lake City, I acknowledge you.
Acknowledge you. Yeah, as long as that doesn't happen. I think they could do a good balance with it, where he doesn't have to be obnoxious. Randy Orton did that a little bit when he came back. He's a little obnoxiously friendly with the crowd. CM Punk's been doing that, hey, any Maple Leaf fans? He feels like he's doing a stand-up. Any Maple Leaf fans here? I love you guys. And if they don't do that with Roman, just make him be Stone Cold Steve Austin. Make him not be loving on everybody, but just be cool.
Well, and I think it's inevitable, because I don't know if any people that watch us are also sneakerheads, but the Flu Game 12 Jordans just got they're saying canceled, but they're getting replaced with the Bloodline version or variant of
really.
I'm not a Jordans wearer myself, or anything. I don't claim to be a sneakerhead by any means. I am not.
Too rich for my.
But I watch it. My son likes Jordans, so I keep up with that stuff. But yeah, they're dropping they're calling them the Bloodline 12s, I think is what they're calling them. And I mean, they're nice looking shoe. I'm not gonna lie, it's all black with red. It's pretty cool. But that's kind of like the first hint, right? That something big is gonna come up for Roman. So I'm thinking that's what's gonna be. He's gonna come out in the Bloodline. So I think they're supposed to drop next month. So. Coincidentally, but who knows? But yeah, so I think it'll be cool to see. I will go on. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I'm glad to see WWE kind of get the sneaker deal in, because I feel that's the only thing missing for as far as pop culture, and I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'd love to see the way. But yeah, so okay, cool. I can see that. I can see that. I'm hoping Gunther, just because I would love to see him just going down in the crown and just over the top, it would be so cool, but I could see that happen.
And I think he'd be very deserving. He'd be very deserving to win, but that's what I initially thought. But now it feels like feels like they're heading in that direction. But we'll see.
Yeah, and here's where it gets tricky. Now we got the Queen of the Ring. So Queen of the Ring, we have for Raw. We're gonna have Lyra Valkyria versus Io Sky, which is probably gonna be a great match. They've been building to this, her versus Damage Control. So expect Bayley. Yeah. Or not Bayley, I'm sorry, Becky Lynch to come out to help out. So I'm sure Becky Lynch will be there cheering her on. Then you have Bianca Belair versus Nia Jax. I feel, not to sound mean, it doesn't really matter who wins between Valkyria and Io Sky, because Bianca Belair is going to win.
Belair's going to win.
Yeah, they're going to give it to Bianca Belair.
Agreed.
So that's
where this definitely feels like it's going. Yeah. It's going to be Bianca Belair. I think Io Sky will win, because you got to have they want to do a heel. So I think Io Sky will be. So the final is Io and Bianca. Bianca takes it. I'd be surprised if they went in the other direction with this.
I agree. Next up, Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed.
What do you think about this?
I don't see Sami losing the title in Saudi because he was always the one that wouldn't go to Saudi because he was never like welcomed because of his heritage and his culture.
Yeah.
So now that he's going, I don't think they're gonna let him lose there. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna win. I think we'll either see Otis take out Chad Gable here to start their feud, or they'll help him out in taking care of Bronson Reed because he told them to. And then that'll just leave Sammy and Chad, and Sammy's gonna. I think Sammy's been stewing too long on this rivalry with Chad to just not let it blow off here. So I think this is where it's gonna happen. I think we're gonna see Sammy retain.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think Sammy. It's too early for him to lose the title at this point. I do think we'll see Otis come in for the save, and I think he'll be ringside, and he'll end up doing something to cost Chad Gable.
Yeah.
Whether it's intentional or not or unintentional, something will end up happening, and then you'll see the breakup with them, and they'll kind of segue into a feud between Otis and Chad Gable. That's what I feel will happen here. But agreed.
I agree.
I think Sammy retains.
All right, and then for the for the world title, I think is what they're calling it. Yep, right, women's world champion. Yep. So we're gonna have Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. I'm going Liv Morgan on this one, just because I feel she should have had it to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they have to. I'm on the fence with this one.
I don't think they'll let Becky Lynch lose, to be honest with you. But I'm just going for the.
I don't think they'll let her lose, but yeah, I don't think they're going to let her lose. But I feel like you really have to let. If you don't let Liv win now, like what are you gonna do with her? You're gonna sideline her for until Rhea gets back. Like what are you gonna do here? So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Liv will become the new champion.
I agree.
And you need one title change, and I think this is the one title change that's going to happen.
Yeah, because it sure as hell is not going to happen in the next match.
Not going to happen in the next match, yeah.
So here's my take. Cody Rhodes, Logan Paul, undisputed title only. Obviously, Cody's not losing this one. He's going to win.
Obviously.
He's not going to lose his title. However, after Logan Paul, who does he have to fight? Nobody right now. Because Drew's tied up with CM Punk. And that's even on another show. That's on Raw. That's not even on SmackDown. Roman's not back yet. I don't see anyone else really pushing for the title. So, I feel here in Saudi is where we'll get the debut of the Wyatt Six with Uncle Howdy.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah,
and I think they're going
to... would make the most sense.
Yeah, because here's why. SmackDown was the first time the commentators ever talked about the QR codes that have been coming up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They never mentioned them. They've always ignored it.
Like, this disturbing video. And they showed the video with like...
Of like the missing psychologist or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, that sits down and was like, hey, we'll see how you're doing since our last session. And it cuts away. And I was like, they really steered into it because they've always just passively ignored it the whole time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So, I feel this is where you'll see them come out because... What did Bray always do with his whole gimmick with the Fiend and the Funhouse, right? It was always turning your inner demons and inner battles against you. That's what he did. And that's why I loved it so much. It was so psychological. I feel that they're going to come after Cody because who has more demons inside of him? Demons, I say, not literally. I know Cody's a great guy and everything, right. But who has more inner battles, inner turmoil between himself is Cody. Right, trying to impress his dad, keep his dad's legacy going, not letting his past, the Stardust and all his other failed gimmicks get the better of him. I feel like we're going to start seeing all that. They're going to use that against him, and I feel that either he's going to win clean against Logan Paul, yeah, right. But I can't even take myself saying that seriously. But he's going to win against Logan Paul, or he's going to win via DQ. Because the Wyatt Six is going to interfere, and Logan Paul's just going to run out like a scared little girl because he's going to get freaked out. And then they're going to kind of pick up the scraps and take care of Cody Rhodes. It would be big points in my book if we see Brandy come down to try and, help him out. And we have the long-awaited return of...
Alexa Bliss?
Yes, thank you. I didn't want to say it because it's going to set off my thing again. Last time it was talking to me. But anyways, yeah, we're gonna see her come back and make her return, and then you can start a program with her. Because see, that's why it fits so well. Because you can have her against Brandy, and then even Nikki Cross is supposed to be part of the Wyatt Six too, from what I understood. And then you'll get to have Bo as Uncle Howdy. You get to have Eric Rowan come back out, and maybe that's where we have, because then now you have levels to it. So I think that's where you're going to see the return of the Wyatt Six, or the debut of the Wyatt Six. I feel it'll go over well. We'll see. They'll either do it there or they'll do it on the Raw after, depending how they feel. Yeah, but that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I'll say I think I definitely think Cody retains. Obviously, not sure how they're going to get there. They're going to try and keep Logan Paul to save face to some degree.
He'll have brass knuckles at some point.
Yeah, he'll have brass knuckles, and he'll duck. I worry it's going to be very formulaic, and he'll duck the brass knuckles, and then he'll beat him, and that'll be that. Mm-hmm. I do wonder if at this point they steer into, because it's usually at a premium event is where you'll have the culmination of that.
Yeah,
because the initial return was at what, Backlash, or was it Extreme Rules? Extreme Rules was when he when Bray Wyatt returned. It was right at the end of the show. So I wonder if they'll do the same thing with as they're Cody's won and he's victorious. Then do you get the Uncle Howdy video, and kind of similar to what they did with when Bray Wyatt was giving his return speech, and you had Uncle Howdy pop up, and he was oh little one, you think your life is beginning, your life is over, and he gives him that speech. And I'm wondering if he does that. If you think your story is beginning, your story's over. And then they go and they do a play on that. I think they could do a lot of really cool stuff with it. I hope
they really can
at least get the teaser for they come out and put him on notice.
Yeah,
on the video.
At least that.
And then you see it start to play out. At least do that, which would be great.
I agree.
Hopefully, here's hoping. But outcome for this match is pretty standard. It would be great if they did something in the middle of the match where it was a big. If you just wanted to end in a no contest, I'm okay with you having them just come in and scare Logan Paul off. If that's the way that they do it. At least it's fun. At least you do something a little bit different. Because you already know what the outcome's going to be. So at this point, I'm kind of I don't...
Give us something unpredictable. Yeah.
Yeah. Get there in a way that's enjoyable. That is wrestling, sports entertainment enjoyable. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. Hopefully. Here's hoping.
I agree, and I hope that's what we see happen. There's so many ways to do it. There are so many ways to do it, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how it comes to fruition. But I hope that's what they do, because also on SmackDown, where if you scan that QR code, it showed the little floppy disk. The date on it was 5/16/24, and it said Twitch, but it was a T and then a space and then it's Witch, so Twitch, right? But I don't know, maybe that's going to have something to do with it, but it said 5/16, so I'm curious because he didn't come out on Friday. Neither of them.
Yeah, he didn't come out on Friday.
But that's when they talked about him. Do you see what I'm saying?
Interesting. So. Well,
we'll see.
We shall see.
I'm enticed and curious, and we shall see what happens next week.
We shall see what happens, and those are our predictions. So we'll see if we're right or wrong, or something wild happens. Who knows? So that's what we got this week on the recap. We recapped a lot, but we appreciate all the support as always, everyone. Thank you again. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. All that good stuff. We'll be coming back to you next week. This next week will be a results show.
Yep.
We'll talk about all the fallout from the premium live event. So should be a good one. Good luck to all our king and queen of the ring competitors this week. Yes. We'll see who was right, who was wrong, or if we're both totally off. Because you never know. Those writers get kind of sneaky. They get kind of wild. Just change things at the last second. So we'll see. But until next week, we appreciate y'all and have a great rest of your day. We'll talk soon.